Hello everybody and welcome to another episode on the Import-Export Hub channel. Bogdan here, your host for the next couple of minutes. I hope that you are all great, and without further ado, I will now dive into today's topic, which is related to tariffs, duties, quotas and excise duties. All of these part of the import-export activity worldwide, and that's why I thought it's worth getting familiar with these terms. But guys, before I dive into the subject here, I would like to quickly remind you some things about taxation. And basically we have direct and indirect taxation. Direct taxation is applied by the governments on revenue, income or profit. So corporate tax or income tax could be two such examples. While indirect taxation are taxes applied by governments on suppliers, which are then collected from the customers. And here two examples that come to mind are the value added tax or the VAT, from which I know in the United States there is no such tax. Or another example for indirect taxation, the excise duty. And now with this short reminder about taxes being covered, I will move to my first topic and start with the tariff, which is nothing more than a customs duty or a tax levied on imports of goods. And most of the time we're talking about an ad valorem tariff, so according to value, or a specific tariff like, I don't know, $75 per ton of green coffee, for example. Here the tariff can be compounded from these two elements also, but this type of mix is used less often. In the majority of cases, tariffs are mostly levied on imports, but there are some cases in which tariffs apply also on exports. But as I said earlier, this happens very, very rarely. And if you're wondering why tariffs are implemented in the first place, well, there is not that much to say here really, as tariffs are mostly used in order to raise, government revenue and implement some sort of protectionist measures regarding infant or strategic local industries, or protect the customers, the national security, or in an extreme case as a form of retaliation. And here look no further than the Trump's tariffs on Chinese goods, for example. If you're thinking that tariffs were introduced recently, well, think again, as there were some sort of tariffs dating back to ancient Greece. So no, tariffs are here for quite some time, and it implies some sort of government organization and management in order to have in place the right infrastructure. In order to collect those tariffs, mainly customs offices and other government entities involved in the taxation. And that's why some countries that are somehow politically unstable have difficulties in collecting taxes, so much needed for their development. But anyways, this is another story. And now getting back to the subject here. Guys, you could look at tariffs as a form of regulation of foreign trade that taxes foreign products in order to encourage or safeguard domestic industries, and are specific to each trade relation between the importing and exporting country, or specific to a particular product, in which case tariffs can vary significantly from product to product. And that's why it is crucial to know the exact product HS code in order to properly determine the customs duties. Which brings me to my next section relating to basic customs duties. And here the concept is quite simple. And basically, when a product is traded internationally, a customs duty or customs tariffs will often apply. However, when there are special trading arrangements like a free trade agreement, for example, we're entering the realm of preferential tariffs, where tariffs have been eliminated or heavily reduced. At the other side of the spectrum, we have anti-dumping duties, because apart from regular customs duties, product can also be subject to anti-dumping mechanism. And basically, dumping occurs when a company exports a product at a lower price than the product's normal value in its home market. And if an investigation finds out that the importers have engaged in dumping and caused injury to the domestic industry of the importing country, then anti-dumping measures can be imposed on imports of the concerned product or products. And I will not get into the details here about how the investigation process goes on, but usually the large companies or large industry associations will trigger this investigation, which is a very complex and time-consuming process. And now coming back to the anti-dumping duties, well, this measure can take one of the following forms. And we have an ad valorem duty, which is basically taxed according to the value of the transaction. We have a specific duty tax per specific amount of the product. Or the third option could be price undertakings, where the exporter agrees to sell its product at a minimum price. And here, guys, just for the fun of it, I will put a couple of examples about the current investigations active in the European Union, from tubes and pipe fittings to aluminium flat roll products and bicycles, as in the case with China, to biodiesel, as in the case here with the United States. And guys, now that the tariffs and duties have been covered, I will move to quotas, tariff quotas to be precise. And basically, these allow for a relatively short to medium time frame the total or partial suspension of the normal duties applicable to the imported goods. A very important thing to mention here, anti-dumping duties are not affected by these suspensions. And the way how these preferential tariff quotas work is quite simple. A predetermined volume of goods originating in a specific country can benefit at importation from a more favorable rate of duty than the normal third countries. Of course, entitled to benefit only if the necessary evidence of origin is supplied. And because of this strict relation with the specific origin, these are called preferential tariff quotas. There is another type of tariff quota which is called autonomous tariff quotas, where, governments in their pursuit to stimulate competition, to improve competitive capacity, or, boosting employment, are given to strategic industries, mostly to raw materials and semi-finished goods that are not available in that particular country, or if they are available in insufficient quantities, so you won't see these quotas being given to finished goods. And now, with this section being also covered, I will move on to the last one relating to excise duties. And basically, excise duties are imposed on goods that either harm consumer health or pollute the environment. And you have here a couple of product categories that are under the excise duties rule. The first is related to alcohol and alcoholic beverages. The second, manufactured tobacco. We have mineral and oils. And the fourth one related to energy products and electricity. And for this last one, category of excise duties, it is important to underline that in the European Union, for example, energy products are taxed only when used as motor fuel or for heating. As for electricity, this rule is mostly used in the context of a wider goal, such as, moving to low carbon and energy efficient economy, like trying to phase out the use of coal in the production of energy, for example. Another important thing to consider about excise duties is that these are payable only upon release for consumption, and that's why you have the customs warehouses, for example, where you can store the goods under the control and security of the customs authorities without payment of import duties and taxes until they are given a definitive regime. And if the goods are re-exported to another country, then you don't have to pay the duty or the taxes. And if they are released into free circulation in order to be sold, of course, thus having a definitive regime, the duty and other charges become payable. And for example, in the European Union, you only have to pay the duties once when your product first enters the European customs territory. So let's say, for example, that my company is based in Romania and that I am importing cigars from Cuba or the Dominican Republic, but the boxes with cigars arrive first in the Netherlands, for example. Then I will have to pay the duties in the Netherlands, 26%, in order to be released into free circulation. And in Romania, the only things due will be the VAT, which is 19%, and the excise duty of about 70 euros or $85 per 1,000 cigars. So I won't have to pay another 26% duties in Romania also. Hopefully I've managed to make myself understood with this example. And guys, before I finish this presentation, the bottom line is that there is still a big debate whether or not to have in place tariffs, or contrary, to eliminate them as much as we can, as the unholy trinity of WTO, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank wants to. Of course, there are pros and cons. We have countries which did well with temporary high tariffs, and countries who did poorly without tariffs. But all this has to be put into a larger context, if you'll ask me, whether you factor in things like the service sector, the financial and banking sectors, the government spending, or just as much as important, the intellectual property rights, which all these international institutions lobby for when they are negotiating new loans or new adhesions with the countries. And here I prepared a couple of tables with the average tariff applied by some countries on cumulative imports for 2020, with Bermuda having some 37% tariffs, Barbados 25%, or the Bahamas and Djibouti with some 19%, while on the other side of the spectrum we have very low tariffs in countries like Georgia or Mauritius with 0.7 and 0.6% respectively. But anyways, this is another story related to government policy. I'm not an expert on this matter. So guys, I will wrap it up here for you. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you've liked it. Don't forget to hit those tiny little buttons below this video. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.